Good afternoon, good morning, good evening out there. This is the Rewind. This is your podcast for to serve as a weekly source of inspiration, of empowerment, of growth. And this is inspired by the messages from Christ Universal Temple. We are the online extension of that, right? This is the collective. And what I am excited about is the opportunity for us to grow together today. Now, what we're going to be doing on the Rewind today is going back, rewinding on the lesson sermon from Sunday, February the 9th. And I have the Reverend Dr. Derrick B. in the hot seat. I want to let you know before I bring them on that the Rewind is, we're definitely looking back on Sunday sermons, but workshops, other spiritual growth opportunities, and maybe sometimes we spin them up when there's a need. If you all say, hey, we really want to talk about this, we will bring the Rewind to you for those topics. And so I want to encourage you before I bring Rev on to join our online community. So on Facebook, we have a group, a private group called the CUT Collective. And this is where we get an opportunity to come together and talk. And more than that, you all can let me know what you want to see on the Rewind. If there was a point topic in the sermon that really just sang to your soul, I want you to let me know because I'll pull it and we will talk about it. If there's a question, let me know. I'll pull it and we'll talk about it here on the Rewind. And then, of course, if you're watching it live with us, you can ask questions in the chat. All right. So we are broadcasting live. You're welcome to ask questions in the chat and we'll fold them into the conversation. And it's always more fun when we play together. So I'm encouraging you to do that. I am excited though, because the series that we're in, this new series for February is called Unlimited, Overcoming Silent Opposition. Unlimited, Overcoming Silent Opposition. And so I'm going to bring on the amazing speaker teacher that gave us the lesson sermon, the head honcho in charge over there. Well, okay, I'm sure he would say that. You're okay. Okay, God's in charge. And then the head honcho in charge over there, the Reverend Dr. Derrick B. See, I gave you a new title, the head honcho.
Hey, what's going on, Rev? I mean, but you did kind of set the hierarchy, right? So without question, God is absolutely in charge, and I'm excited and thrilled for the role I play in giving leadership to Christ Universal Temple, and I'm really honored by the opportunity to be a part of this international online digital community. You know what I'm saying? Like that's also very, very amazing. And so I'm grateful to have you carry us through this experience in such an amazing way. And so I really do appreciate you. Says I thank God for you. I thank God for Dot. Dot is amazing. Dot is making sure that folks have the word and they know it's time to plug in. And so Dot, if I ever miss the opportunity, or if I don't take advantage of the opportunity to shout you out, know that I mean it every single time, because Dot is our best digital ambassador, and I really dare you to challenge her for the queen spot. So whoever wants to challenge Dot for the queen spot, you're welcome, but you've got your work cut out for you, because she does not mess around. Blessings to you.
That's true. That is the truth. I appreciate it. And you know, she said, thank you, my pleasure. You know,
it shows.
When you are, sometimes you don't know, like people think that what they do is a small thing, right? And your small thing can have such a powerful impact. And so I just want to acknowledge that you may not think, oh, well, let me invite a few people. No, your small thing makes a big impact, because you never know who needs to hear what you're enjoying at that moment. So thanks, Dot, for not being shy. I know sometimes I can get in my head about that, you know, and just not share things wildly. And so I'm breaking this. I'm about to put on some Dot energy myself and make sure that I'm sharing.
And here's the thing. A lot of small things lead to a big thing,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely. Absolutely.
no invite is too small, because I think you make an amazing point. Like we 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 tend to, particularly those of us uh, who view our experiences through this metaphysical Christian truth principle lens, we tend to always, and we've been trained this way, and rightfully so. We tend to
Hmm.
always put our best face forward, and behind that face or behind that mask, like, we just never know what people are going through. Just
Yeah.
in our baptism that we did for new members in November, uh, one of our folks who pushed through to make it on campus for the baptism experience had just been held up at an ATM earlier that day,
Mm.
right? So, like, you just never know what someone has been through on their way to the thing that you're inviting them into. You know what I'm saying? So, thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing up. Deborah and Quintina, love you guys. And again, thank you, Rev Reed, for making sure that we have the space to touch the international community with
Hmm.
the collective.
Yes, yes, yeah. We are here. We're here to serve. And there's this lesson, this series we're in, right? This year is about standing in your greatness.
Mhm.
And we're teaching ministry. So you get to you don't just get the what, but you get how. Like, we give you a process for anything that we share. And so the process for standing in your greatness, I think, is going to be so exciting to see over the course of the year. And this month we're working with unlimited. Overcoming silent opposition is the sermon for today. And so before we're going to dive into that, we'll pray, then we're going to dive into that. And so again, I want to let you know, if you want to know what that silent opposition is, go ahead and put that in the chat. Let me know that, hey, what is this silent opposition? Because here's the thing, we don't want anything to stand in the way of your greatness. All
Mhm.
right. And so
Mhm.
this is one of those, when it's, they silent but deadly, right?
Yeah. That's
So we don't
right.
want no
Right.
dreams getting killed in
Yeah,
the making of this
they
podcast.
work to kill your potential. They work to kill your ability to grow into all that you've been divinely designed to be. And we don't want to let
Absolutely.
that happen.
Absolutely. All right. So let's just set the atmosphere. We'll begin with prayer and then dive in. Go ahead, Rev.
All right, all right. And so, as we just take a moment to turn within, if you can do so safely, I invite you to close your eyes, center yourself. And one of the ways we can do this is just by taking a couple of good, deep, centering breaths. So I invite you to breathe in deeply, hold it for a couple seconds, exhale slowly. Again, breathing in deeply, exhaling slowly. Continue this process of breathing in and exhaling, and just know that as you are doing this, you are allowing yourself to be fully present to the activity of the Holy Spirit expressing through every channel that is attuned to this conscious vibration right here and right now. As we're tuning in, we're allowing ourselves to release the cares, the concerns that may have even pushed us to this moment. And we're allowing ourselves to touch the hem of the garment that is represented by the Christ presence that is our hope of glory. Let's take one more good deep inhalation. And as we exhale, we release all toxins, all blocks, all negative buildup, anything that would stand in the way of our hearing, interpreting, understanding, and executing on the ideas, the fundamentals, the principles that are the gateway to our abundant life. We give thanks for this collective consciousness. We give thanks for the activity of the Holy Spirit. We give thanks for this learning, growing community. We give thanks that we can be with people of like minds. And we know the presence and power of God is right now mighty in our midst. And where two or more are gathered together in the name, nature, and consciousness of the indwelling Christ, the presence and power of God is right there in the midst of them. And whatever it is they touch and agree upon, it is fulfilled. So I'm touching and agreeing with you for increase and expansion, for wealth and for peace, for love and for joy, for understanding and ideas, for initiative and finishative, for the willingness and commitment to grow into the masterful beings we were created to be. Thank you, God. Amen and amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. We have, I love prayer. I love prayer so much because if there is ever a time where you can become present to the moment and recognize that you can feel the weight of whatever it was you're dealing with just fall away. Affirmative prayer is it's such an amazing tool.
Mhm.
If you're listening to this, I want to invite you all to play that back too, right? Like if you are listening to the recording, these are on YouTube, you can play that back when you need just a minute. I might have to grab them one day and just make a compilation for you. Like, what I mean? Just put all the prayers together. Have a good old prayer bath.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
This area of life we're focusing on here is on your personal growth. And one of the things that I'm present to in my life right now is that, my dreams and my desires, the goals, the intentions, my purpose is so big, right? I know that it's going to support and help so many people.
Mhm.
And I can only do that as much as I have a capacity for it. So growing is so important to me. So I'm hyper aware right now of my habits. I'm hyper aware right now of my
Mhm.
tendencies.
Mhm.
And so because I am clear about what my purpose is.
Amen.
And so I want to start off with just the importance of your own personal growth and making that a priority in your life, because it could be the missing link to that flow in your life, is that you're really just not putting any energy into your own personal growth.
Yes. And I like obviously not you all because you're here, right? And you're not just here for the community. I believe you're also here because you recognize the power um, and the truth and validity behind what Rev Regis said. Like um, one of the underpinnings of our purpose is to grow. Like
Mhm.
one of the reasons we all showed up is to grow. And so in the busyness of life, it can become it's easy to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
And there is value in reminding ourselves that part of my purpose is to grow. So when you feel yourself growing, and maybe even sometimes when you feel yourself outgrowing certain experiences or certain relationships, that can become a little bit uncomfortable. And when you face that, I want to encourage you to remind yourself and remember that a part of my purpose is to grow. And
Right.
we see it from the moment we show up. We do not stay the size we were when we first show up on the planet, right? We continue to grow and expand. Our physically we grow and expand, our knowledge base grows and expand, our understanding grows and expands. It's how we're wired. It's a part of how the DNA of the divine expresses through us. So whenever you find yourself feeling that inclination to grow, and there's something else trying to that silent opposition tries to keep you
Mhm.
from being on purpose. I want you to remind yourself that a part of my purpose is to grow into all of the vast capacity that has been entrusted in me.
And you based your lesson in this, right? If there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do no harm. And I think it's such a in this process of growth, right? And we know that we can have growth in a way of like increased fear, right? Increased resistance, right? That can be something that you begin to focus on, and therefore it will expand into your experience. And so I know that, just 100% honesty, that I have created enemies in my own mind. I've created these figments that have that will speak, and some of them are real faint, right? And it's just like, and it's like, I remember, if I tune in real hard, right, then I can hear those. But then there are others that are present for me, like, and so I know they're giving me feedback, and I love that you gave us that, to how we can look at our experience. And I'm going to play that clip, but talk to me about what made you find, and examine this particular proverb.
Well, so it was through in my prayer, study, and research. One of the things that became apparent to me, particularly as I was looking at this topic of personal growth, is that our oppositions aren't always obvious, right? Like it's one thing to be to have the David experience where the Goliath is clearly in front of you, and it seems to be unbeatable and insurmountable, but it's obvious, right? And so when it's that obvious, oftentimes, like David, we know what we have to do in order to at least confront it, right? But the silent oppositions within us, or the enemies within, those are a lot more nefarious, right? Because they are not announcing themselves. The only time I might realize that my silent opposition is active when my result shows up. And at that point, now it's time to make some adjustments and tweak some things and begin again. But at that point, like the fact of the matter is, to use some of the young folk jargon, at that point, I've taken the L. You know what I'm saying? And by taking the L, I don't mean just taking a loss. I've got an opportunity to get the lesson.
Right.
But at that point, the results are in. And so what I wanted to do with this lesson, and the way I was guided in this lesson, was for us to be able to push those things to the forefront, because like it's really difficult to fix what we don't face. And so I wanted to start it to help push them to the forefront, so that when they present themselves, and the ones we covered in this lesson are obviously not the only ones, right? But at least if I'm present to these, then it's not much of a leap to accepting that maybe there are others that I have, right? Like, like to the point you made, like if I know that I have the silent opposition of fear, then it's probably not a stretch to believe that I also have the silent opposition of doubt. And so now I can begin to restructure my consciousness, and restructure my belief, and restructure my behavior in a way that allows me to confront and overcome those, by bringing them to the forefront, by pushing them into the light, so that they're just not doing their dirt in the dark.
That's right. And there's a statement that you made during the lesson, was that the challenge for many people is that they don't realize that they have an enemy within, right? So the idea that you feel like you just can't get ahead, like you don't, things just aren't clicking and working for you, and you're not aware of the inner opposition that you have, and that's constantly working. I have a very good friend of mine who is out in them dating streets, right? And so she keeps having the same experience. And, you know, and it's God, just to be completely transparent, it's like I can't seem to get a flow with anybody. And so as we looked at the things that she was saying in that very beginning, it's like you're in the beginning, there is such a critic that's happening in your mind of there's nobody for me is so prevalent in every single interaction that you make, that it is the absolute barrier to the good that she's been seeking.
Yeah, it can't
A
help but show up
silent
there.
opposition.
Yep. Yep. If I am articulating that there is no good thing available for me, that articulation or speaking that word is not coming from a vacuum, right? Speaking that word is coming from a conscious intention and a belief that supports what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when my consciousness is projected out, I'm thinking that it's them, right? But if I were to begin to shift what I'm saying and what I'm seeing, if I were begin to say to myself every time I heard myself whisper to myself that there are no good X's or no good Y's out here, or no good jobs or no good employees or no good help or no good doctors or no good mechanics. If I were to change how I was seeing that and what I was saying about that, I could begin to restructure my conscious awareness, my belief system, my conversations, my behaviors, and then that restructured awareness would project itself out. And maybe I don't have as much harmony right off the bat, but maybe it's enough harmony for me to be able to take a second step or have a second date with the person where now my guards are down just a little bit more, their guards are down just a little bit more, and now we have more authentic conversation, and it seems like we have a little more synergy, maybe even enough for a third date kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But if I've got the barrier up out the gate, then the person can only meet me with their barrier. If I come to you with my ego, more often than not, unless you are highly enlightened, more often than not, then you will meet me back with your ego.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a play that ran that Reverend Jackie's son was in, and one of the lines from one of the characters was, "I give you sugar for sugar and salt for salt. If you don't like me, it's your own darn fault," right? And so I think some of us might be having those kinds of experiences. Well, not some of us, all of us are having those kinds of experiences. But the key is to recognize that the power for how I shape my experiences is not in them over there. It's in me right here. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I have control, agency, and authority over.
Yep. Yep. So so this is when we sometimes this introspective we can start beating ourselves up about it. And so I'm going to play this clip because I think this helps us to have the right frame of mind as we begin to do this inner work. So I'll play this one and then we'll chat.
How do you do a diagnostic test on your life? You go back to the cause. See, what the mechanic is looking for is, well, what's the cause of the malfunction? He's not looking for the cause of the malfunction so that it can reflect poorly on you. Somebody say, diagnose, don't judge. Even if you have been responsible for neglecting the car, that's irrelevant at this point. What he's really trying to find out is, what's the cause? So we're not want to waste time and energy judging and feeling sorry for ourselves and blaming ourselves because things aren't working quite like we'd like for them to. We're much better served by just getting to the cause and identifying the issues that are keeping life from running smoothly as it's designed to run.
Mm-hmm. So that, I think that's so powerful that, just kind of do look at your experiences and get some feedback, right? But there's a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a purpose of being, you said being self-reflective.
Yeah. And to be able to do it as we just said in the clip, without judgment and without blame. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if I judge it or blame, then it puts me in a less likely disposition to take responsibility. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I am responsible for the cause. And now, and again, I can do this without any judgment, just objectively loving myself entirely through the process, objectively saying, this is the experience, this is the cause. And the moment I take responsibility for what's showing up in my experience, I can begin to now recalibrate myself because I've identified the cause, I've taken responsibility, I've accepted that just as I'm responsible for having produced it, I'm also responsible for being able to correct it. And then I can put my energy and my effort and my attention into some creative solutions and some creative tactics by which to overcome the experiences that aren't as pleasing or satisfying to me. So I guess I really want to say it's a waste of energy to judge and blame. And quite frankly, like most of our negative emotions are attached to this tendency to judge and blame.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely a waste of energy. And being self-reflective, looking at yourself, becoming self-aware without the baggage. Now, I told Rev right before we started that I've been fasting. I've been doing a small fast because I needed to stop a behavior, right? And that behavior is called snacking incessantly. And so it's like, so whatever's happening, I need to figure out how to stop it. So let me become very aware of my appetite, right? And so a fast helps me to become aware of my appetite. So I've been drinking a lot of water. And because I'm doing a diagnostic test, like what is it that is running me right now? Because it ain't me when it comes to crunchy things, right? I like crunchy things and I like sweet things. And so it's sometimes together, but I had to, it was my opportunity to stop because I do not want to appear like someone who was out of control with their appetite, right? And so I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to project that into my experience. Yet I'm snacking when there's no hunger. I'm snacking and just for the crunch, whatever the thing is, right? And so you brought up this. I'm telling you, this is one of the most real quotes out scripture that exists. Nothing is more real, except maybe for help my unbelief, right? Is I do not understand my own actions. Or I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate.
Yeah, no, like I appreciate his honor. Well, so first off, I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the level of honesty of one who can write to someplace else or write to someone else and say, hey, listen, like I get that I'm teaching and preaching you. I get that I'm kind of leading the church here, but I'm a work in progress too. Yeah. And even though I'm saying to you all of these things, God is not done with me yet either. And so I'm still a work in progress. And there are just some things that I'm working through that I'm not understanding and I'm not able to explain. And it's got me in a little bit of a funk. Not enough to keep me from doing what I need to do, right? But I'd like to get a hold of this thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a hold of it. And so
Yeah.
I just appreciate his I appreciate his honesty. I appreciate his candor, and I appreciate the extent to which most, if not all of us, can relate to his dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah. And that this next clip I'm gonna pull is about self-sabotage. And I think that you can be sabotaging yourself again, and without being self-aware, not get that you're doing it, right? Not get that you're doing it. And I'm a big fan of, you guys know, I talk every time about spiritual community, because I think that can sometimes help you to become more aware, and just good community. Okay. I'm saying the spiritual community because I believe strongly in spiritual community, but I believe strongly in community, and getting into where you can look at someone else who's running a little bit faster than you, who's having experiences that they've intended. And it's like, wait a minute, let me see why things seem to be clicking for them. Let me see why things aren't clicking for me. So I think that the audacity and the courage and just the wisdom to say, let me take a pause and have that on some regular basis, where you just kind of like, like you said, do that self-diagnostic test to say, how am I doing? How am I feeling?
And I think you make a great point. Like there is also some value in and here again, like in a non-judgmental way, paying attention to someone who's getting results that you're not getting, right? Because here it does not mean that they're better than you. It does not mean that they're smarter than you. It does not mean that they're more gifted than you. It does not mean that they're more spiritual than you. It doesn't mean any of that. Here's what it simply means. They're doing things differently than you are. Right? That's all it means. They're doing things differently than you are. So if I pay attention to how Rev Sheree was able to overcome that penchant for snacking, and I do what she does, what she did in the order that she did them, with the level of belief and conviction that she did it, then I can move myself much closer to getting those same results. And it doesn't require me to add to my prayer life. It requires me to add to my practice differently.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That practice is really important. There's I'm going to play this clip about self-sabotage, and then talk a little bit about some of the ways that, we can sabotage ourselves. But the cool thing about anything you're doing to yourself is that you can stop.
That's right.
You can stop doing whatever it is you're doing to yourself. Like, that is also a habit that you can begin to build. All right. So here we are. This is Rev talking about about stopping self-sabotage.
Whenever I don't understand my own actions, such that I don't do what I want to do and do what I hate to do, that's a self-sabotaging pattern. Self-sabotage is often a silent opposition. It's something I do when I say I want one thing, but I reduce myself back down to the level of what I really believe I deserve.
Oh, God.
Are you with me? Self-sabotage is when I say I want something, and then I go about to make sure that it doesn't happen.
So putting it that way is just not necessarily the nicest thing. But you said that it's when I say I'm going to do one thing, but then I reduce myself. That reduce myself is a gut punch. Like just a wake up call. Like, oh, wait a minute, I'm reducing myself through this choice.
Yes,
I'm reducing myself.
But here's the thing. And I don't think I said this in the lesson. I'm reducing myself back to what I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
You said that.
I'm
You said that. I'm gonna tell you exactly. I'm gonna put it in the chat for you.
So I simply come back to what I believe as possible. We say with God, all things are
All things
possible.
are possible.
And then, like Peter, once I start to step out of the boat and start walking on the water and start to see that I do have within me, Robert, the capacity to um, extend beyond what I thought was possible. When things start to get a little turbulent, I might start to sink back or reduce back to what I really believe. And so Peter, as that expression of faith within us, just starts to shrink ever so slightly, or in his case, sink ever so slightly back to what he believes, back to the place where he is the most comfortable, back to being a boat person rather than a water walking person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's so critical that I grow what I believe is possible, right? And as I start to also grow in my belief, that expanded belief helps stabilize me rather than sabotage me. So if I don't grow what I believe will ultimately be what gets the blessing. Right? And I don't mean the blessing of the expansion. I'm saying the blessing of confirmation. Whatever it is I shrink back to or stretch out to, it'll be supported by my system of belief.
Yeah, no, and this is so, like I said, I'm not making it personal because it is, right? Like the idea that I'm on a mission to stand in my greatness. And so I'm
Amen.
examining myself. I'm looking at my habits and I'm looking at things I thought I had conquered, right? So snacking, this isn't my first go at stopping
Right.
snacking.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's right. You got
This
some,
is my first go.
we have some experience on the street.
But I didn't realize that I had reduced myself back to a level that I thought I had surpassed. Right? I thought that the idea of the self-control and the discipline and the intentional eating, I thought that was the level of what I really believe. But I'm still working on making that belief firm. Right? I'm still helping that belief along the way. And so this is so. I think that there is a there is this self-sabotaging tendency can only be stopped when we just take a pause to pay attention to ourselves, to pay attention to our results. You know, like so there's something I write in my I started a new business. So there's something I have in my daily journal, which is, what did you do to earn money today? Like, what did you do? Because I want to be aware and present to the idea that time can just slip through your hands with no result. And so being intentional about that, I write it out because I got to put something in that box every day. What did you do? And it's like, ooh, I'm gonna have to go get a lemonade stand tomorrow because I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I just a quick preview. So we're gonna work with the importance of time a little bit in Sunday's lesson, right? The value and importance of making the most of that. So yeah, but that's a good practice, Rev.
Yeah. No, this is listen, like I said, I'm committed. I'm not out here just talking. We're gonna do this thing together. We're growing.
That's right.
So this one, because habits come up, and there's some really good books to support how to build new habits. But this one is about, in order to have this experience where you are no longer trapped by self-sabotaging tendencies, but creating a new habit for it. Let me play with it. I think that's where this one is going. Hold on 1 second.
Is there some hidden opposition that you're not aware of, but it's keeping you from getting the results you want and need and desire in your life? You think it's God that's working against you, and it's not. So you've got to make sure, Paul, that you understand your motivation. As my friend Michael Beckwith says, pain pushes until vision pulls. What is it that's got you going, Paul? You have to make sure that your habits are helping. See, when the apostle admits to not understanding his actions. He's at the same time admitting that he doesn't understand the impact of his habits on his actions, and vice versa. He doesn't understand the impact of his actions on his habit. He doesn't realize that he is in a vicious cycle. He knows he's in a cycle, but he doesn't know why.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so Barbara said, "What? I'll share this. Why does such? The question is why? Why believe I don't deserve the blessing? This why? This why is coming up, and so talk to us a little bit about this vicious cycle that the apostle is sharing that we're in, and then what's the why behind it."
Okay, so so I talked to Paul on Sunday. Let me talk to Rev Ree on Wednesday, right? So let's say I have a habit of snacking, right? And there our habits are essentially a loop, and they're comprised of four things: my cues, my cravings, my responses, and my rewards, right? Cue, craving, response, reward. So let's say I believe I'm beyond the stage of snacking, particularly when it is misaligned with my goal to be a world-class athlete and my commitment to work out and live a healthier life. So what's the cue? The cue might be seeing the salty snack on the counter. It might be smelling the aroma of the M&Ms when the bag just creeps open. And once I experience the cue, before I know it, without even wanting it, my next thing is the craving. So I walked in the house from my workout not wanting Oreos. But now that I've seen the box, I'm like, one or two won't hurt, right? So now I have a craving for something that is inconsistent with the commitment I've made, and I don't even really want it. I've just been cued by it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I get the cue, now I've got the craving. What I do, what do most people do when they have a craving? They take care of it. If I'm a smoker and I have a craving for a smoke, I break out the pack or I go get my cigar or whatever, whatever my deal is. And I soothe or calm the craving by giving myself whatever I'm craving.
Mm-hmm.
When I do that, I'm responding to the craving, right? And the reward is the sense of satisfaction I get for having the snack, even though I didn't want the snack. It was inconsistent. It's inconsistent with my program and my commitment to do X, Y, or Z. And although it's out of bounds, the completing the loop of the habit requires that I give myself a reward for that. And we know from in psychology, classical conditioning, that what we reward gets repeated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just unconsciously being in the flow of this habit now has me behaving in ways that I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So what's the answer? So first, I've got to be able to blind myself to the cues.
Right.
Right? I've got to be able to blind myself to the cues. I have to make the cue invisible. Right? So if it's a commercial or a smell or if it's something that excites the senses that prompts a cue for me, I've got to condition myself to be blind to that thing, right? I've got to make the craving undesirable, right? Because listen, the only reason I'm craving it is because it's desirable. So I have to be able to make the craving undesirable. I have to make the response difficult, right? Just like we talked a couple of weeks ago about how you put yourself in the habit and overcome the barrier of working out by making sure that you put your workout clothes right close to you in the morning. So rather than make it difficult, you've made it easier, right? If my response is to be able to easily reach out and grab that box of Oreos or that pack of Oreos, I've made it too easy, right? If my response is I've got to leave the house and get in the car and go to the store to get it, then it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I've got to get in the car and go to the store to get it, if I got to drive a couple miles to get it, if I have to be inconvenienced to get it, then my response can be delayed enough for my remembrance of my other commitment to kick in. Right. And I have to make the reward unappealing. Yeah. So what's the reward for having 2 cookies? I work out an extra 45 minutes. Are those 2 Oreos worth
not worth
extra 45 minutes of working out?
Never.
That's not a good deal. That's not a good deal for me. That's not a good deal for me. So with those steps, I can reverse any habit. Hear me, guys. If with what I just gave you, you can reverse any habit that you have that is proving to be a silent opposition for you. So you are not powerless when it comes to your habits. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, right? You have everything you need right now in order to be able to reverse a habit that you've been doing 3 months or 30 years.
Yeah.
You have the power within you to unwind it and reverse it, right?
Yeah.
Now, what was the question on belief?
The question on belief was believing I don't deserve the blessing. Like, why believe? Like, so the idea that you are sabotaging yourself because you don't believe that you deserve the blessing. You don't believe that you deserve that good that you said, that you desire.
Okay. And is the question, why do I believe that?
Yeah, no, I think she's commenting on that, right?
Oh,
like, Barbara, go ahead and add more context to that if you have something else. I want to make sure that Rev hits on it, because this idea of the cues and thank you for just kind of breaking down like what's going on in our minds. This is part of why the diagnostic is so important, is that when I know that when I can't figure it out, there's a solution out there, right? There's a solution out there. And to understand this, and Dot said before you went through all the cues, hide the Oreos, get it out of your sight. That right? Yeah. So that's right. That is, these things are not outside of our field of knowingness, but when we're trapped in self-sabotaging behavior patterns, right? And we don't stop and look at ourselves. Like, we don't have a habit of looking at ourselves. You wait. Now I'll tell you one of the ways, because Dot, you said you gained the weight back, right? That one of the ways, right, that you can realize that you are out of order is that you get this negative result. And I don't, I don't necessarily want pain to always be the thing that's pushing me, right? I don't always want to have the negative result to say, okay, now move forward in a different direction. So I want to be on the vision pull side of things than on the pain push.
Right. I mean, and so it can be different for all of us when it comes to our motivation. You know what I'm saying? So for some of us, and the fact of the matter is, we all use both toward motivation and away from motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all of us use it at some time or another, but more often than not, one is more dominant than the other. So we tend to lean on one more than the other. And like most things, the way we've developed the one we lean on is not new to us. We've probably been leaning on it for most of our lives in terms of how our motivation is directed. So if I'm someone who is pulled by the passion, or who is pulled by the vision, or who is pulled by the purpose, then that's a wonderful thing, right? If that is what drives me toward what I desire, that's great. Likewise, if I'm someone who says I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, or I'm sick and tired of being broke, or I'm sick and tired of being in situations that don't work for me, I'm sick and tired of getting results, it's time for me to do something different, then that's absolutely wonderful too. Both forms of motivation work. My point was simply to be able to key in on which one you tend to lean on, so that when you find yourself in a moment needing to shift, you can call on the tool that you're most adept with.
Yeah. You gave me two powerful words this and as we move through this lesson, which was no and stop, right? Like sometimes those words need to be in your vocabulary. No and stop. And to know that you can have that kind of authority over your own beliefs and your own thoughts and your own habits, right? No and stop. So I'm going to play this. I think I'm going to try to get these last two in here. I'm going to play this one.
Okay.
There's a price to be paid for personal growth. It's not going to come free. It's not going to come cheap. Here's what I can tell you. People who won't pay the price don't take the risk. And if you're unwilling to take the risk, you can't grow. And if you don't grow, Paul, you can't be your best. So, Paul, if you're going to increase your results, you've got to grow to the degree where you're no longer not doing the thing you want to do, and you're no longer doing the thing you hate. That means you've got to eliminate some activities, some requests, some time stealers, some things that don't have a high payoff.
This might be the most difficult thing that you said, the stop doing list. Being someone who is an achiever and an accomplisher and I can do it, right? It's like, give it to Sheree. She can do it, right? At that. And taking pride that, hey, I can do it. But you said that last part, right? That you're looking at saying no to things that don't have a high payoff, right? Is this, what's the payoff? Everything costs. What does it cost to say yes to this request?
Yeah, right. Like, so the Pareto principle, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. The Pareto principle suggests that 80% of our outcome comes from 20% of what we do. In an organization, theoretically, according to the Pareto principle, 20% of your staff is responsible for 80% of your results. In your family, 20% of the people wash 80% of the dishes, right? So if, in fact, there is some validity to this notion that 80% of my result will come from 20% of what I do, I can't afford to neglect this 20%, because even the other 80% of what I do will only give me a 20% return, right? So the majority of my time might be spent giving me a lower or lesser, relatively speaking, whatever that means for you, return. So I really need to be focused on that 20% of activities, relationships, studying, prayer time, leisure time, whatever it is that helps me produce the 80% of my outcome. That gives me the highest payoff for my time, energy, effort, and attention, right? So that also means I can't say yes to everything, no matter how much I might want to.
Yeah.
I can't say yes. And so if I say no, I'm not saying no to you. My saying no is not against you. My saying no is not a byproduct of not believing in what it is you're doing. I have to draw the line somewhere because I'm present to this fact, we'll call it, that 80% of my outcome is going to come from 20% of what I do. So there are, by necessity, some things that I just have to say no to. There's some people that I just have to say no to. There are some opportunities that I just have to say no to. Like Apple is thought to have been, is thought to have grown into its present capacity because Steve Jobs was diligent about saying no to what by most accounts were some really, really good opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. And so the things that they did focus on, their 20% of things, it's thought helped to catapult Apple into the behemoth that it is. But it required the leaders to be able to winnow down what was the most important things for the company to be focused on. So on the macro and the micro, we see it at play.
Yeah, that reminds me of Steve Covey's. I did a lot of Franklin planning, and they had this one system where it's called the rocks, right? That your day only has so much capacity. Put the big rocks in there first, because so sometimes you could just be flipping out how you start your day. Like if you say yes to all of these little things that don't have a high payoff, then you may have filled your cup with all those little things, and there's no room for the big rocks, for the things that are important to you. And so that is one of the ways I know I've restructured my day again, is like, oh, because I can flow and choose when I do what, it's like, it's very easy for a day to fill up with a lot of little things. So knowing what to say no to. I don't know. I know people who are listening live, tell me what you got to say no to, right? What are those activities, requests, the time stealers that don't have a high payoff that you need to say no to right now? Anybody got that? And then I'm going to add you while you're sharing, because I'm going to play this last clip. I want you to, just to give you a clue of where we're going, that I want you to also put what you got to stop doing, right? So it's like, what are these time stealers? And then what's going to be on your stop doing list? Here you go. This one, bro. This is my challenge right here. Oh, all right.
You need a stop doing list. That's what you need. You need a stop doing list. And on this list, it's pretty simple. I want you to just put the stuff that you need to stop doing. Stuff like comparing yourself to others. Stuff like allowing your faith to be smaller than your fears. Stuff like doing anything that does not feel right. Stuff like gossiping and bad-mouthing others, Paul. You got to stop doing stuff like not speaking kindly to yourself and others. Paul, you got to stop not making yourself a priority while you're trying to please other people. You might have to stop dealing with energy-draining people. You might have to stop paying attention to opinions that don't enhance your life.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah. The stop doing list. That there is and I really do mean, like, if you are listening, whether you put it in the chat or not, I want you to think of one thing that you are going to stop doing, some habit, whether it's an internal conversation you're having with yourself or something you're outwardly doing, because that's what we got to say. No to some things, and then what are some things that you want to stop doing? I know that that gossiping I learned, because I wouldn't say that I gossip, but I talked about people a lot. Right. And at the end of it, I would bless them. Right. So I would say what I'm going to say, but then I would, I hope everything works out. Right. But I had to realize that what if I'm talking about people so much, what am I not doing that would be for my highest good? Because nothing's coming out of this endless chatter about what somebody did or didn't do. And so to begin to say, okay, let me stop doing that, because there's something bigger and better for my conversation. There's something better we can get out of this exchange than what somebody else did. Nobody grew from it.
Yeah. I noticed on Sundays that that Apple would send me a report of my cell phone usage, right? And
I cut that off, but that's a good idea to turn back.
Did you? And so I so my books are on my phone. My phone is one of my learning resources. But I noticed that they also gave me the analytics on the other things. So I see my books, I see my music, and then I noticed that at one point stuff started to flip and YouTube was at the top. Right. And so some weeks it would be 5+ hours, some weeks it would be 6+ hours, and YouTube would be at the top. Now, I do look at the service on YouTube. So, when we're at, or not, I shouldn't say I look at the service. I'm commenting on our worship service on Sundays. But a more cursory look helped me to see that no, it wasn't the 90 minutes of the service. So that ain't it. That's me. That's me. God, that's me. Look at funny videos and looking at this person's content and that person's content.
How do you cut a pomegranate? You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so at the start of the year, at the start of the year, I said I'm only going to. So I enjoy a little levity. I like to laugh, and I enjoy the comedians who are on YouTube who have good funny skits. And I didn't want to be done with it completely, but I had to drastically reduce the amount of time I was spending on that. So what I did was I put it on my stop doing list. And now I only give myself small amounts of time during the day, somewhere in the 2-3 minute range. So this is the time you have to catch my attention, Mr. Funny Man or Miss Funny Woman, right? Other than that, it just wasn't serving me in a way that supported my commitment to standing in my greatness, and it wasn't supporting me in a way that supported my commitment to grow. So what I also did was, because I would also very commonly, and not so much this past year, but in previous years, I would pay attention to folks who presented their learning on YouTube. So Les Brown has something there. I catch it on YouTube. So I had to figure out other ways to plug into that content that was not on YouTube, because oftentimes what would happen is once I was done with what my feed gave me about Les, I would just easily transition into the other stuff
Something
I
else. Yeah.
enjoy, right? So I had to create some other ways for myself to be able to get the content that supported my commitment to learning and growing, Chris, but also not catch the cue from the prompt that said, "Hey, here's Miss Funny Woman. Don't you want to
Listen,
see this? Because this title
this
is
is
amazing."
that's key. I've talked to you guys about some hacks, things that help me change habits. So one was when in the morning, one, I don't get to say I'm not going to work out in the morning. It had to be a decision the day before, and I got to get on 2 feet, right? 2 feet helps. When it comes to videos and not going down the video rabbit hole, if somebody sends me a video and I watch it, I'm never allowed to watch the next video that comes up. Right.
Mhm.
So the only video I watch is the one that was sent. And then so I never watched the next one. That has helped me. I'm giving this to y'all if y'all need it. Right.
Mhm.
And the other thing is like so one of the things my son does is that he has deleted the app from his phone. So he has to install the app and then he uninstalls it when he's finished doing whatever. So it's just those little things that you see
Mhm.
that as you begin to recognize your cues and your crave, like how do
Mhm.
you shift it and break these habits? Your stop doing list is one of those things. Just to first declare, wait a minute. I mean, I'm hearing these are some great things you guys are sharing that you're going to stop doing. Stop
Yeah.
wasting 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. scrolling. Right. That's what HUD said on YouTube. I'm just going
Yep.
and those are some interesting hours to scroll,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
invest it.
and that dopamine hit is
Yeah,
that's a thing too.
it's a real
It's a
thing,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
And invest it into learning something. So it wasn't just to stop doing it. Like I'm
Mhm.
big on a fast. That's why because some behaviors I just have to completely stop before
Mhm.
I bring them back in a healthy way. That works for me.
Mhm.
And so I when I found out how effective that is, okay, I got it. I fasted from TV completely.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that when I started again, it was like with greater intention and
Mhm.
that initial habit that just lessened so much and I was able to
Mhm.
fold it in a way that was healthy.
Yeah.
Quintina said that people pleasing, right? That people pleasing is one of the things she's going to stop doing. Right. And I know that feeling of when you're doing something, you ain't want to do it, but you said yes.
Mhm.
You said yes, and now you're sitting there thinking of. I know I'll be thinking of all the things I could have been doing. Right? Like I could have
I mean,
been.
and listen, like it's really gratifying to help people.
Yeah.
It fuels you to serve others
Mhm.
with class and
Mhm.
elegance. So
Mhm.
it's understandable why we are inclined to say yes. The question we have to weigh in our consideration is this yes consistent with what I'm working on? Is it
Right.
consistent with my projects? Do I have my projects done first? Did I get my big rocks in first? And now I've got some time to give to whatever else because I've gotten all of my priorities knocked down, right? So if I'm making you a priority and I'm deprioritizing myself, that is not fair to me or to my commitment to grow.
Yeah. And it's important to get that because I like to put things in there. Sometimes there are things that we do that are for our highest good, right? That we may need to adjust. So maybe instead of excessive scrolling, you're excessively working. And you may need to find those spaces where you can take rest from the work and recognize, that I call it the let God time, right? Sometimes you got to let God bring it all together. Let me back up off of this because I think I'm doing it. And let me let God do some working together, all that good working together for me. And
Yes.
so there's what's important and what I'm so grateful that you shared is that it is important to be aware of yourself and not just
Yeah.
to the point to say, I doubt myself all the time, but to begin to align that with this bigger calling. So our calling on you this year, what we're saying, what we're all in agreement with, what you're vibing with, is that you are here to stand in your greatness,
Amen.
and that greatness can look like whatever you and God have agreed to, right? Whatever
Yeah.
that is, you could be standing in the greatest health experience of your life. You could be
Yes.
standing
Yes.
in
Yes.
the
Yes.
greatest financial flow that you've ever, like you,
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
your
Yes.
greatness is, you can
Yes.
stand in it, and you
Yeah.
got to be aware of yourself, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the way of my dynamic flow. I don't want to be in the way. I don't want to look back and say, if I had just modified one little thing, if I had just one little shift, the results I have could be exponentially greater.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we can do that. This is all in our power to do. I try to remember what's mine to do. Sometimes I'm watching, I don't watch the news a lot, but you can get overwhelmed with the news of the world and think, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
This is what you can do.
That's right. That's right. Do what is in your control to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I control the things that I can control, if I own the agency I have,
Right.
if I remember that I have a right to self-determination and I take responsibility for that and direct myself accordingly, then I can do great things just as you can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. This has been so rich. I want to encourage you all to watch the lessons. Just make sure you're flowing with this particular series, because I can feel the build happening with who we're going to be in December, right? I could feel
So
the
can I.
build happening, and
Amen.
so these lessons are
Amen.
all recorded on YouTube, right? They're all housed there. They're all housed on Facebook, and so I want to encourage you to take a peek. I was gonna tease Rev, but I'm on my other computer. I was gonna tease him because in our effort to stand in our greatness as a community, right, we're shifting some of the things we're doing on YouTube, and so I've been pulling these stills for his thumbnails, and I would tell you, stills are just vicious, boy. Like just you in the middle of talking, it's like your
Yes.
face could be doing whatever.
So just a quick story. So we were inviting Minister Farrakhan to be with us for something, and we sent they required us to send the picture that we were going to use for the marketing, and we sent the quintessential Minister Farrakhan type picture, him doing like this, like with a scowl on his face, giving it to you super duper raw. And they sent back like, no, like use this one. And it was the minister with a smile, and like he is a great sense of humor, just a beautiful man. But you rarely see that side of him reflected in stills, right? They're like, nope, use this one. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's a much better picture than the one we chose. So just being able to capture, what I'm saying, the depth and the breadth of the person and the topic in a still, I imagine can be quite the task.
Look, I have big ideas, and I'll be like, why did I suggest this? No, it's listen, standing in your greatness. I commit to stand in my greatness in every single aspect of my life, or it needs to be on the stop doing list.
Amen.
Right? If I'm not giving my very best, it needs to be on that stop doing list. And that's where I am right now. Everything is getting measured up against that. Can I be great at this? Can I give this my all? Then I may need to stop doing it.
Good.
I mean,
good. Good.
When I say painful,
good. So good.
When I say painful, I'm not saying this is graceful, y'all. Like this is not a graceful experience.
Painful in all the best ways. Just painful, just like those workouts, right? I was doing some leg stuff today. I'm so glad you all didn't hear me screaming during that. It was you know what I'm saying, like I was screaming, trying to shake stuff out, like, oh my God, but if I want the results, I've got to be willing to put in the work. And you know what they say, like people who don't take the first step never take the second step. we have committed ourselves to taking those steps.
Yeah.
Don't laugh, Judith. That's
No,
not funny, Judith. That's not funny, Judith.
Listen, I will also say that, like, as leaders in your communities, because you're all leaders in your communities, that you be surprised at when you stick with your commitment, how it impacts other people around you. And so, I take it very seriously, being here, supporting CUT online, and making sure that this message continues to go out as wide and as deep as possible. So I have to be dope, right? Like, I got to be dope. Because that's the reflection of this teaching, is that you can be dope. Like, so that community that you're in, like, you are the dope one, and people are watching. Stand in your greatness. Stand in your greatness. It is so vital. And I'm just grateful for this lesson series. So what's popping right now, I want you to know that the series is going on, and then in March there's going to be a shift to healing. And so Rev is cooking up some work around healing and wholeness. And so just know, like I said, we're committed to standing in your greatness in every area of your life. And so that'll be March. I got permission to tease that. And then also, you all know, then you'll see this in the close, that there are 2 texts that Rev has that you can get on Amazon.com. Guidelines for a Master and Live Happy. Live Happy. I'm looking at it on my shelf. And Live Happy. That those 2 are available. And I will tell you that if you need a devotional for this year, Live Happy will give you something new and fresh every single day. Right? Something new and fresh every single day, something to wrap your mind around, to make part of your spiritual practice, maybe to replace some of that 5 to 9 scrolling.
Thank you, God.
Yes. And some of you are rocking with me in the vision board experience. So we're heading into week 3 of that. But don't worry, if you didn't get in on it, this class is going to open up. It'll be a class you can enroll in any time. But like I said, we are standing here. Judith said, I commit to stand in my greatness. That's right. I see you, sis, and I trust God working through you as you. Yes, yes. So just a little bit. And of course, every single Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central, tune in, dial in, walk into Christ Universal Temple, and just be encouraged, be enlightened, and be a stand for greatness in that community, because somebody walks into that sanctuary not feeling great about themselves. And so you standing with your life moving well in the right direction could be the light that they need to see. So, sometimes you got to just go ahead and bear the weather and get on into the church house, because people need to see that. Go ahead and share the service with somebody, because maybe they need to go to virtual church with you. So just know, I just want you to feel your impact, because you make an impact in this world. And we're grateful for you and your impact.
Yes. Before we go, Rev, I do just want to say thank you to Dot one more time. I'm not gonna say she's responsible for just about everybody that's here, but she does an amazing job of making sure that we know that that the collective is happening, the rewind is happening, that Sunday service is happening. So thank you. And I did offer a challenge to anyone who is willing to take up the challenge.
That's right.
Of seeing if they can get Dot's crown.
That's right.
But I'm gonna say it again. You've got your work cut out for you, because she does not mess around. We thank you, Dot, and I'm thankful and grateful for each and every one of you. Bless you wherever you are joining us from around the globe. It is truly, truly, truly a joy to be a part of this international digital online community. I love you guys. You all are absolutely amazing.
Yes, thank you so much. So we're gonna shut it down for the day, but just enjoy your day. Make it beautiful. Make it love filled. Make it joy filled. Go and be great. All right.
Make sure you stop doing lists. Go be great. Make sure you stop doing list homework.
Stop doing lists. And that's what. Listen, come back when next week, right? I want to hear some testimonies of stop doing. Right. So for 7 days, What did you stop doing? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right. We're going to be great together. We'll see you
Peace
all
and
next
blessings,
week.
guys.
Be
Love
blessed.
y'all.